Hey, Tuko Riadha, my friend, welcome to this channel. An expose to athletics, perspectives, different angles of how athletes look like, decisions they make, celebrations they accomplish. Celebrations they accomplish? What was that? No, the celebrations we enjoy with them. As they win, sometimes they lose, and sometimes a parade that is following them all the way to Botswana. And that's how it looks post Tokyo. But I have a different perspective to today in this to Koreada. It's a subject that is almost I'm piling on, I'm bandwagoning. I'm doubling down on my narrative of how Kenyan athletes, specifically men, are faring in the landscape of Kenya per se, in the landscape of athletics, and what seems to be a crisis. I think there's a crisis in athletics in the men's category in Kenya. And I think it's plaguing them. I don't think we really have made a closer look and trying to interrogate the decline and decay among men in Kenya. And I think I'm being vocal here, maybe as a person who is observing this closely and just passionately and trying to redeem something that maybe, as I said in my last episode, what I call the MAGA, making athletic golden again in Kenya. Maybe that's what I'm trying to reclaim here, because some of us have been enjoying that tide of excellence from Kenyan men athletes. There's something happening, and I think it's worth addressing in a way that hopefully it catches an attention and a scrutiny. I'm reading something disturbing, and I think this is why I think men are lagging. They are not even aware of their demises. And I think it should be told. Men are living in the past, how they've been patriarchs, they've been breadwinners. They've done this over the years. They've seen themselves as the breadwinners, the men of the house. And that's very Kenyan. It could be even very Western. This is the myth, the legend. But to me, they need to demystify some of these things. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. There's a crack. The foundation has been found wanting. Is the foundation that was laid on that men have survived for so long with impunity, really, without a sense of being asked questions, is falling apart just in front of our own eyes. This is a fact in athletics. Like I've told you, and you guys are aware, the harvest of medals in Tokyo for the Kenyan women was incredible. Men could be jealous, and they are scapegoating. Somebody, I just told me the other day, people are scapegoating this, trying to say, oh, women have advantage. They don't have advantage. They work harder. They are more focused. So there's a, there's a dispute going on at the High Court of Eldoret of one of the best runners we've had in the 1900s. And his the world record of 3,000 meters got smashed by Jacob Engbristen, a record that had lasted almost 25 years, the 3,000. It was 720, it went down to 717 with Jacob right now. I spoke to somebody whom I won't reveal today. But Daniel Komen thought this record is going to last, I don't know, his lifetime, and he took a bet on it. I'm hearing this on the ground before I tell you what is happening. He took a bet that he thought the 720 of 3K is going to last his lifetime. He gambled because betting in Kenya is an epidemic. It's a problem, it's a disease. This guy who is telling me this might be listening to what really happened. He might have some clue or my insight of what happened to Daniel Komen, because Daniel Komen could have bet on his record lasting. It's gone now. It was 720 in 3K, now it's gone. He's in court. Why? He sold property, a matrimonial property that him and his wife bought without his wife's consent. Why did he do that? I just gave you a hint. Could he have done that because of his gambling and betting on his record to last somehow? And he lost. I could be wild here, but I'm just telling you that is a possibility. Let's find out what the court will find. But there's a dispute going on here, and he sold a land that is, to me, a tragedy when you think about it. When you think about you are married to this woman, but you decide to go behind her back. He sold 220 acres of land worth 300 million Kenyan shillings to fellow athletes, including Eliud Kipchoge, without consulting his wife, Joyce Kimosop, who is she's in the faculty of a university in Eldoret. So she's a lecturer. And according to this article I'm reading here in the Star magazine or Star newspaper online, this is a problem that I'm seeing, and I don't think it's becoming an exception. It's becoming something I'm keeping an eye on. So he bought this land from somebody, right? And then according to the documents here, what happened is that the wife discovers to her shock that the land that they had bought together, and they had borrowed some loans from the bank, that Komen had gone behind her back and sold this proper 220 acres of land. That's a lot of land, by the way. He sold the land for just 10 million Kenyan shillings. Did I tell you the original appraisal here on the land was about 300? The man sold this for 10 mil. That is even barely 10% of the actual value. And I like the woman continues, the wife, not the woman. The wife continued to say this in court. They took several bank loans to fund the purchase and the development of the property, which was their only home. And the husband, Daniel Komen here, did not mention to her that he has sold this property, only for her to discover strangers occupying their land. It continues to say that, so Daniel claims that they are trying to solve this problem or through a mediation to mitigate and solve this amicably. But now they're in court, right? And he claims that, of course, the buyers now are saying, well, they are going through the right process to buy this land, and so they own the land. So the case is in court in front of Justice Nyakundi. Let me tell you something here. This is why we need to demystify manhood. It has failed, it's been falling, and it's been found wanting in this part of history. This Daniel Komen story, or this dispute in court, solidifies my case that men are struggling to understand their standing in the society of Kenya. As an athlete, as athletes as they have failed to deliver on world stage with medals. It's been declined. I've stated that very clearly. Back at home, betting is a problem. I'm just saying that could be one of the problems they are suffering from. They are not. Daniel Komen, he was at the epics when he broke that world record. That record lasted this long. It's gone. So are his savings. So are his property. He decides to sell a 300 million Kenya shillings worth of property for 10 mil. I see betting here for me with that kind of value and that kind of loss. I see a problem, and I think the person I spoke to seems to be hinting to that. This is a major crisis. Men are losing their way, and Daniel Komen epitomizes that. He stands out as one of the guys who was at the top of his game. Now he's a nobody. He has no record with his name attached to. I suspect that this guy was telling me could be true, that he had bet that it's going to maybe last his lifetime and somebody's going to pay for it somewhere. He lost. Now he has to pay. He does this behind his wife's consent. He's in court. The Constitution of Kenya will agree with her unless of some strange things that could happen in Kenya, some bribery somewhere. The Constitution of Kenya puts the woman, puts the wife, puts the partner at the middle of any dispute when it comes to land. Mark my words, she's winning this case. Okay? Unless of things I don't see. But for me, it's not about land. It's not about even this. It's a crisis in Kenya. Let me put it to you up. Let me give you a perspective. If you remember, Rebecca Cheptegei was killed by a man who was jealous of her success. Agnes Tirop died at the hands of a murderer who still roams and is free in Kenya because he was jealous of her success. The wife of Komen is a well-accomplished teacher in university somewhere in Kenya. Komen has nothing going for him financially. He's depending on the income of his wife. He thinks he can make some income by betting on selling this property. Both cases you can tell is a man and man who have lost their ways. And they think women are not awoke. Women in Kenya are very much aware of what's happening. They know their stand constitutionally. They know where they belong. They've worked hard enough. Men need to come to realize that unless they communicate, collaborate, and work with their partners, they're going to be left behind. And that's the story I'm getting from this kind of stories and disputes and even death of women in the hands of men who just believe powers is in their hands. No, my friend, it's gone. You have to own it, and you cannot cheat your way through it. You can't kill your way through it. The days of thinking you're going to suffocate women and think they don't have a say is gone. That's the story of Kenya. Unless they wake up, these men and other people who live in the past will be left behind. Komen, Daniel Komen. The last time I saw this guy at the top of his game, he was really at the top of his game. 3 children, and you're going to sell your property at 10 million and it's worth 300 million? I think he has a problem. And maybe the wife is trying to save him. So are the women of Kenya. That was my take, my friend. Talk to you later on the other side of the pillow. Tuko riadha, a revelation, an expose to the crisis of Kenyan athletes as we speak. Ciao.